Good morning. My name is Rob Kwok. Last name is KWOK. I'd like to introduce you to our clients first and foremost. This is Solomon Nunez over here. At the end over here is Amelia Diosdado, and over here is Margarito Gonzalez. We are representing them for the January 24th, 2020 explosion, and I'd like to introduce members of our trial team as well. One of our lead lawyers here, Ryan Loya. Over here we have Marcus Cardenas, who was responsible for the clients. Over here is Ronnie Sawaf, who is responsible for the allocation and the evidence. And there are other members of our team that aren't here, but these are the ones that could make it today. What I'd like to do for the next 10 or 15 minutes is just go through parts of our opening statement so you can get a flavor for what we went through. What brings us here today is yesterday the jury came back in our trial that took 4 weeks, including pretrial, and they rendered a $37.9 million verdict for 5 of these clients. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about the evidence of what the jury looked at, what we went through during trial, open up for questions, and the clients are available to answer questions as well. For the January 24th, 2020 explosion, plenty of blame to go around. It was a catastrophic loss. 3 people were killed. 400 to 500 homes were severely damaged. These 3 clients happened to be in the immediate proximity of the blast. The blast modeler came in and testified about the blast force pressure, the overpressure. The physician came in to talk about the force of the pressure on the brain and the body and what that does. The vocational rehabilitationist expert came in and talked about what these guys can and cannot do anymore for work, and they're severely limited due to their blast injuries. And our law firm is honored to represent them and another 1,000 people from this neighborhood. And so for the past 5 years, this has been a labor of love. We have worked without ceasing on this case, and we have brought in about 9 or 10 different defendants. We let one go. They were too far away from the service, but we settled with 7 of the 8. We let one go, and then 9 and 10 were the defendants that went to trial. Defendant 3M, you can see some of their marketing materials behind us, and Defendant Teledyne were the last 2 defendants standing, demanding that we go to trial against them because they refused to pay their share of the damages. And so what I told the jury was they were here for 2 things: to tell us what percentage the gas service companies owed and how much money these cases were worth. So they were here to fix percentages and to fix damages, and they did a terrific job, and we are very grateful for their hard work. This was an interesting jury. They studied very hard. They took a lot of copious notes. They paid great attention. They deliberated over the course of Thursday, half a day, Friday, all day, and then part of a Tuesday. That is a long deliberation, and there were 14 jurors. 2 were alternates, and 2 eventually were let go. But the initial 12 that were on the jury remained the whole time, and we were very thankful to the jury. I started by telling them that the business owner had at least 50% blame on them. They used the wrong hose. That hose popped off, as you'll see in a minute, allowed the room to fill out with propylene. They also may have known that there were problems with their gas detection system. And so the hardest part about this case was the business owner filed for bankruptcy a couple weeks after the explosion, leaving these guys with really little or no path to recovery. So it was a pretty dire situation a couple weeks into the case. The next thing was the business owners all pled the 5th Amendment in their depositions. And this is because the Texas Natural Resource Commission on Clean Air was potentially going to come after them for some failures that led to this release of propylene into the atmosphere, and they were afraid of criminal charges. And therefore, it looked really bad against the business owner. And I told the jury, these companies, 3M and Teledyne, want to make you mad at the Watson folks, and you should be mad because their place blew up. Bad things happened, and they all stuck their head in the sand and pled the 5th Amendment. So it does look really bad. Also, we were able along the way to settle with the gas delivery companies, the supplier of the gas. Western and Matheson, and we reached a confidential settlement with them. Along the way, like I was telling you earlier, we were left with 3M, Teledyne, Oldham, Detcon. They play a little corporate shell game. They buy and sell each other all the time. They make it very difficult to pin down who is really who. So you'll see a little timeline on how we were able to explain to the jury clearly each company's role in this. And really the focus was on these companies, 3M and what we'll call Detcon. This happened here. We were in the courthouse in downtown Houston, and it happened this way, about 17 miles by car in one of our communities in West Houston, right off of Gester and I-10. We're very familiar with that area as Houstonians. And right here in the middle of a residential neighborhood, we had a factory that was producing huge ball bearing parts to be used in oil field process, and they were coated with this thermal spray coating that required propylene or propylena as the fuel gas. And so this dangerous activity is going on in the middle of one of our residential neighborhoods. There is a children's bus stop right outside of this facility. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of homes located all around this facility. And so therefore, it is of the utmost importance that the gas detection service companies service these things well, because these are life-saving devices. And because these gas detectors were the only thing standing in the way between the release of gas and this explosion, and the jury found that 3M and Teledyne had multiple failures in this case. It starts here. This is an overview of the plant. There is a propylene tank here. It's delivered in this tank. It runs across the dotted line into these booths, into this thing called the coatings building. This is where all the activity is going on. It's also called the spray room. This is ground zero, where the explosion occurred. The propylene is delivered by Western Gas into this 2,000-gallon propylene tank delivered by truck. And as we can see from their safety data sheets, this is a very flammable, dangerous, explosive gas. And so we have this piped into this spray room. There are multiple booths. There are robots in these spray rooms. There are these little white computers next to each spray room that's called a mini programmable logic computer. Did I get that right?
Correct.
A PLC. These things need to be connected to the sensors in order for the sensor to activate, sense gas, and send a signal to these computers, which in turn sends it to the main computer, which can activate an audible alarm or a flashing light. None of this stuff was connected. That's a problem for the gas service companies. They knew it was not connected. When they left in June of 2019, they knew it was not connected. It wasn't functioning properly as anything, much less a life-saving device. In a moment, you'll see some of their paperwork. I almost said a bad word there, but their cruddy paperwork, where they actually told the Watson folks that everything was just fine, just dandy, go on about your business. In this spray room in the middle is a guy named John Watson. He is the owner of this company. And in this spray room, they used to hold company lunches. And so someone at Watson thought that this facility was safe. And so we also had a nice gym for the employees to work out. This gym was located right next to the spray room. And we heard testimony from a Watson employee who was exercising in the spray room, thought he might smell something, went out to look, but he didn't hear any alarms. And when you don't hear any alarms, you're not worried about gas, especially the level of gas that was in his spray room. So he just went back to keep on working out, and that's what he did, because he had no warning whatsoever. He was actually doing abdominal crunches with a 35-pound plate at the time of this explosion. The explosion was so great that the floor beneath him left him, and he dropped a story with that plate on his belly. He was one of the fortunate ones that actually lived through this whole thing. He testified he didn't smell any gas and he didn't hear any alarms. He just went back to working out. In the spray room, it's a thermal spray coating process where this robot sprays a propylene mixture that coats these ball bearings as we're talking about, and on each wall there's this gas detector that may have been installed at the wrong height. In each booth you have a shutoff valve and some regulators and some hoses, things like that, And this is an example of the area or the type of hose that was used. And this is an example of the hose, the actual hose from booth 4 that popped off of this fitting, allowing the gas to fill the spray room. By 4:24 a.m. on January 24th, 2020, an estimated 600 gallons of propylene had filled up into that spray room, and the gas detectors were doing nothing. They sounded no alarms. They were not functioning as any safety device whatsoever. Oldham, Detcon, 3M advertised, sold, serviced, maintained, calibrated, and promised that their iTrans gas sensors were working, that they were functional, that they would save lives in the event of a release of propylene, and none of that happened on the day of this deadly explosion. Jury heard evidence about that. This is footage caught by a Ring camera. It's interesting because, as you can see from the circles, they're all the same timestamp. All this stuff happened, this explosion happened in milliseconds, almost at the same time. And so there's no change in the timestamp. This is a fatal explosion, a deadly blast that just happened in a split second. It was a really terrible day for Frank Flores, because he is the gentleman who walked up to the spray room, opened the door, and flipped the light switch, and he lost his life that day. Mr. Flores was represented by a friend of mine by the name of Muhammad Aziz, a very talented lawyer and a dear friend of mine, and he did an excellent job with our trial team, and was able to get Mr. Flores' family compensation and settled out of this case. So he was not part of our trial, but him and I worked very closely together on this file for many, many years, and we are very good friends. But it was a bad day for his client, Mr. Flores. This is what it looks like when you have a propylene explosion. Complete and utter devastation. My friend Joel Simon represents a guy by the name of Luis Rangel, who we allowed to be part of this track. Mr. Rangel was driving up to the spray room at almost the instant of the explosion, had an opportunity. Him and Mr. Flores were actually racing for a special parking spot, and Flores got it before Rangel did, and so Rangel was making a U-turn as he saw Flores exit the truck, open the door, and the explosion totally destroyed Mr. Rangel's truck, sending shards of glass into his face and severely injuring his eye. But it could have been him. He gave very moving testimony at trial that he had been pulled over by a policeman minutes before the blast. Otherwise, he would have beat Frank, and he would have been the one that opened the door. Rangel testified he heard no alarms. Had he heard an alarm, he would have turned around and left. Frank Flores was trained that way. Co-workers were trained that way. You hear an audible alarm, you turn around and you get away quickly, because there is deadly gas that could ignite and cause an explosion. So that's kind of what happened. The guy working out at the gym didn't hear anything, didn't smell anything, kept on working out, and his floor beneath him dropped him, like I said earlier, all the way to the first floor, and he was seriously injured as well. What happened? These gas detectors here have these gas sensors on them that are designed to detect gas and click off a trigger that is supposed to send a signal, that is supposed to sound an audible alarm, or even shut off the valve, or even send some flashing lights, and none of that was present on the day of this deadly explosion. You'll hear, and the jury heard from industry experts we flew in from all over the country, talking about how this work that they claim to do fell beneath the standard of care, because the 3M technician charged for something called on-site commissioning. That means that you get these things working, you put some gas up to it, you test this thing until it sounds an alarm. And he charged thousands of dollars for this service and claimed that he did it and collected the money for it, and it never, ever happened. Just didn't happen. And that was a key moment in the jury's deliberations, when they took a look at his invoices and saw that this man charged for work that he did not even perform. Careless communication, poor service was the cause, or a cause, of this explosion. Then we have the iTrans manual and all the different things that 3M had 3 years to get a hold of and figure out how to get this thing working. They did none of it. We had heard testimony from the director of thermal spray. He was deposed over a couple of days, and he said, just being honest, I didn't understand how these things worked. I am the customer. I hire experts. They come in and tell me the thing is good, passes, very good. It wasn't good, wasn't working. He actually testified under oath. I thought the system would work because the technician said he got the sensors calibrated. We have the safety consultant, the safety man. He knew that there were some problems with the connection of these gas detectors, but he had no idea how these things work. He said, I don't know. I don't even know what they're connected to. He says, I don't know the answer to this question. I don't know about these sensors in these booths. I don't even know where these sensors are or how they work or how the PLCs work or how the robots work. No clue. And so when it comes to servicing these gas detectors, we hire 3M. That's a company that's supposed to know what they're doing. Same thing with the shop foreman, Chris Estrada. He testified that I expected the system to be in good working order. I expected it to be working. What does that mean? No problems. No problems should exist with the system. This is what Watson thought they were purchasing when they purchased services with the 3M company. 3M company, by the way, their gas and flame detection division has a tagline. And that tagline is protecting lives. That's our business. If you ask Watson Grinding what their business was, they would say thermal spray coating. That's our business. But when we talk to 3M, they'll tell you they're here to protect your life, protecting lives. And I read these paragraphs to the jury on all the things that they claim to be a global leader in gas detection. They have the broad range of services and products that they can give to businesses to keep them safe. On all of the above, they claim to be experts. Trust us, we're the experts. And so that's what Watson did. They trusted the experts, and the experts let them down. 3M brags about being the largest manufacturer of gas and flame detection products. They claim to be experts and have expertise in the field to troubleshoot, fix, install, calibrate, service gas detection systems. In 2017, a guy named Louis Sandoval comes out. He is here. In 2017, you hear how 3M buys out DETCON, and so now 3M is in the picture. And then here we see that 3M is servicing Watson. And you know what's really disturbing on many levels in this case is 3M disavowed their own technician. Yeah. They claimed that this guy wasn't their guy. They claimed that this guy wasn't even working for them. They filed discovery responses, sworn answers to 2,000 discovery responses that said that they had no role, 3M had no role in this explosion. Question number one on this jury charge, was the 3M technician working as a 3M guy? And the jury answered yes. Was he acting as an employee of DETCON? The jury answered yes. These companies disavowed their own technician, and the jury said, no, 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 we're holding you responsible. He's your guy. Question number two, the jury answered, was the work that Mr. Darnell performed for Watson, was that a scenario where DETCON and 3M were working in something called a joint enterprise? Are they jointly working together to make money? And the jury answered yes. Not so fast, you are not off the hook. We're not letting you off the hook. And so then after Mr. Sandoval goes, we have Mr. C showing up, another 3M guy, another joint enterprise. We have phone calls during that time period. We have Mr. Darnell making phone calls, going out there, all 3M. 2017, 2018, 2019, DETCON and 3M are out there on premises. And he is emailing with them. He's trying to sell them parts. In fact, they sold them all kinds of parts that they didn't need. 3M in 2017, 2018, 2019 had 3 opportunities to get this system running perfectly, and they did none of the above. In fact, some of the expert testimony said that it was probably and likely never properly connected. And then 3M, after this explosion, sells their gas and flame division. A company called Teledyne picks it up, and so it gets confusing, or they want it to be confusing. But suffice to say that 3M is on the hook for this explosion. That's what the jury found. And so Darnell goes out there twice, in 2019, sells them a bunch of stuff they don't need, misdiagnoses the problem, sells them terminal boards to fix a problem that has nothing to do with terminal boards to the tune of thousands of dollars, and he doesn't complete his work. And when he's done, he passes every single one of those sensors as good, passed all the way down. And then, under follow-up action, he says, no follow-up action required. Clean bill of health, green light go. No notation that this stuff's not working. No notation that this could result in an explosion that could blow up the neighborhood, hurt and kill people. No additional comments about work that needs to be done. Maybe you guys want to get this thing hooked up. Maybe this thing's in bad shape. Maybe this thing's dangerous. Nothing. Instead, the notation for all to see from then on until the date of the explosion, nothing else to do. No follow-up action required. Our industry experts are very critical of this shoddy paperwork. Failure to communicate a dangerous condition, failure to communicate the consequences of not having this system up and running. Instead, he says, everything's good, everything's passed, nothing else to do. Meanwhile, his employer in this litigation swears under oath that we had no role. You got the wrong guys, it's not us. And the jury said differently. Because in question 3, they were asked, did the negligence of any of these guys cause this explosion? 3M, answer, yes. DETCON, answer, yes. The jury held them responsible. They did the right thing. They put percentages on these 2 gas service companies. And we were wondering, why would you disavow your guy? And the answer is because if he is a 3M guy, then 3M rules apply. And we have this global code of conduct here. And part of that is you need to keep some accurate records. You need to be honest in your dealings. And when something is not working properly, well, you should probably tell the customer. After all, they are relying on you, and you are the expert. You should be good. You should be honest. You should be accurate. And you should be respectful. In their own advertising guidelines, it says to always represent the 3M products and services truthfully, fairly, accurately, professionally, in any emails or any conversations or any other communication. Everything must be truthful and honest. And after all, as a good corporate citizen, that's probably a pretty good rule to have, and Mr. Darnell simply did not follow his own rule. He failed to communicate that this was a dangerous, deadly situation. He failed to communicate they should just shut down operations until this thing's working. He failed to communicate these things were not connected properly. They may sense propylene, but they were not going to sound any alarms whatsoever, and that's why this explosion happened. They could have also, instead of selling a bunch of junk they didn't need, sell them a horn, $500-600, pop the horn on there, pop the light on there, instant alarm. Instead, they kept selling them expensive terminal boards, extra sensors. They even sold them extra gas detectors, full units that weren't even installed. What did that do? That caused an explosion. These 3 clients live in close proximity. The star is Watson Grinding. These 3 stars are where they live. Our first client at 4517 Tolina Way, Miss Diestado, this is her house. She bought it new in 2004. She made all her payments. She's very proud of her house. Paid off, destroyed in this explosion. That back door her husband's putting on in this picture was blown off the hinges. Her dog that was asleep inside got out and eventually died from his injuries from the explosion. She's very proud of her home. Windows blown out, glass everywhere, toilet shattered, stuff falling from her walls onto her head, heavy stone things that caused indentations in her head, caused bleeding for her, fell off the wall, and she ended up having a neck fusion surgery that has altered the course of her life forever. That's where it fell from. This is her shortly after the explosion with blood streaming down her face, and this is after it was cleaned up. She also had some dental problems, some teeth knocked out, bad shape for Miss Diestado. The jury came back very strong on her award, and we're very thankful for that. Next up is Mr. Gonzalez. He built this home He had friends and contractors that he worked with closely, and he was very proud of this home. This was a life achievement for Mr. Gonzalez. He owned his own landscaping business. He had hundreds of clients at one point in time, and after the explosion, his ceiling caved in on him, including a heavy 60 to 70 pound ladder from the attic that crushed him, his shoulder. He had major shoulder reconstructive surgery, and he was right here in the blast zone, and his house was totaled out and had to be rebuilt. All the windows are knocked out, ceilings caving in. We have stuff like this in the attic where things are just falling out, ceilings are just falling out, windows are shattered. Big mess. Remember, this is in 2020. COVID is about to hit 2 months later in March or April or May. There's going to be a massive shutdown. There's going to be a spike in lumber, a spike in construction prices, and these folks were rendered homeless during COVID. Injured, unable to work, with no place to live. It was a very dire situation for these folks. Massive, massive damage in this neighborhood. Attics cracked, roofs collapsing, frames moving off the foundation, all kinds of issues with these homes that rendered them unfit for people to live. And finally, we have Mr. Nunez, who was working at the time right next door to Watson Grinding in a tire shop. The expert said that the overpressure PSI on Mr. Nunez's body was over 16. That is an extraordinary amount of pressure on his face, on his head. He continues to have symptoms today, including traumatic brain injury, including concussive syndromes, including PTSD. He's in pretty bad shape, and the jury's verdict reflected their understanding of his injuries. Mr. Nunez was sleeping on this couch at the time. He's a hard worker. He's a mechanic. He's very talented, been at the shop for a while. He's working late on a car, passed out on the couch, and was awakened by things falling on him, including this white metal pole, and it was pitch dark, and he found himself crawling through the glass, eyes burning like sand. It was a chaotic, dark place for him. He crawls out. His shop is totaled out. That entire shopping center was leveled to the ground and removed, and you can just see where things are caving in and bad things are happening. And he eventually got to an ambulance and got to the emergency room. So that brings us to the ending of the opening statement. Sorry, I went a little bit longer than I expected, but it's very thorough. These guys have been through a lot. They're available to answer questions that you might have. The jury came back for all three of these clients very strong. We're very thankful for the jury for their hard work on this case. Ready to answer any questions you might have and allow the clients to answer any questions as well. But thank you for your time and attention. Whatever you like.
I did have one question for you though, right quick. So the 20% responsible, is that because it's broken down by the different businesses? They're all held responsible for that amount?
That's right. So the total amount of responsibility equals to 100%. And on this trial, the jury found 20%, 10 apiece, 10% on DETCON and 10% on 3M.
Okay, and the other places, they're the ones who settled and who...
Other people settled, other people were left off of the jury charge, and so the jury considered the negligence of the premises owner, which is Watson, and Watson's safety guy, and they put 70% on Watson, they put 10% on the safety guy, and they put 20% on the sensor service companies.
Okay, I had a question for Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Kwok mentioned that you had major reconstruction surgery on your shoulder. What's it been like mentally trying to figure out what you do with your life, having gone from owning a landscaping company and all of that stuff to now your whole way of life is just gone?
Entonces te pregunta
Oh,
que,
sorry.
it's okay. Te pregunta que se mencionó que tuviste una cirugía en el hombro. ¿Cómo ha sido manejar mentalmente la situación de pues ya no poder mantener tu trabajo, ya no tener tu casa como lo tenías? ¿Cómo ha sido mentalmente para ti manejar estas cosas?
Mentalmente es pues es duro porque ya uno no tiene ya no hace uno lo que hacía antes y pues sabemos todos que el trabajo es una distracción para la persona y ahora, pues ahora como ya no trabajo, ya a veces estoy como pues aburrido allí o por ya no poder trabajar, ya no tengo las fuerzas que tenía antes. Ahora el brazo dañado y aparte un tiempo estuve como 3 meses allí sentado porque no me podía mover.
Mentally, it's been very, very hard. As we all know, work can be a distraction, and not being able to do that has been very difficult on me. Not being able to do the things that I used to do has been very taxing on me as well.
So sorry, I forgot your name.
Okay.
Margarita.
Margarita?
Mhm.
Oh,
Sí.
Her name, I forgot.
Amelia.
Amelia,
Mhm.
okay. So the question that I had for you, neck fusion surgery, that had to be pretty intense. When you came out of the wreckage, did you know how badly you were hurt?
Cuando tuviste una cirugía en el cuello. Cuando saliste de la explosión, ¿tú sabías qué tanto andabas adolorida?
Yo creo que no, porque pues era mucha la impresión de la explosión.
Not right at the moment because I was so impressed. I was so impressed by everything that had just happened around my home.
I can imagine you were still in shock, trying to figure out, am I okay?
Estabas todavía, me imagino, en shock de todo lo que había pasado alrededor de
Sí.
ti. Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
And so, I guess, and I'll come back around. What does this settlement, what sense of relief does this settlement bring you?
¿Qué tipo de sentimientos te trae saber que ahora hay un acuerdo o una cantidad para ti?
Pues yo pienso que más que la cantidad son los daños que sufrí y pues que ya no van a regresar para atrás. O sea, ya voy a quedar así como estoy, adolorida y ya.
Honestly, grateful for the verdict, but it is peace of mind knowing that they're no longer going to be there, which is a huge piece for her.
And I'll ask Mr. Gonzalez the same question, and I'll bring them in. Is there a sense of peace or relief knowing that you have the financial support to continue on after this devastating event?
¿Tienes un sentimiento de paz o sabiendo que ahora tal vez va a haber una cantidad para ayudarte en el futuro?
Pues por una parte sí, porque pues ya uno lo que no puede uno hacer, pues puede uno pagar hacerlo, porque pues al no poder hacerlo, pues o no lo hace o paga.
On one end, yes, it's helpful to know that for things that I'm no longer able to do, I may be able to get help for those things now.
I was looking around here. I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Solid.
Solomon. Solomon, you probably, hearing the pressure of the explosion, what that did to you, when you woke up, did you feel like you were in a tunnel? What went through your mind when all of that happened on that day to you?
Salomón, cuando pasó la explosión, ¿qué es lo que estabas pasando en tu mente? ¿O qué es lo que estabas pensando cuando pasó esta explosión?
Cuando desperté de la explosión, yo pensé que había un temblor o una bomba. Pues eran muchas cosas que pudieran haber pasado, pero realmente no sabía qué era.
When I woke up, I thought there had been like an earthquake or a bomb. There was a lot of things that might have happened. The truth is, I had no idea what to think at the time.
And so crawling on your hands and knees in the dark through glass, what was your immediate thought?
Entonces, gateando, o sea, saliendo del taller, ¿cuáles eran tus pensamientos inmediatos saliendo de ahí?
Pues ver si tenía algún otro tipo de daño y pues alejarme de ahí donde había pasado la explosión.
My thoughts were to see what had happened to me and to get as far away from there as possible.
And I'll switch it back, some questions for you all.
Sure.
Right, so the initial tranche of settlements allowed about 75% of the homeowners to start on the rebuilding process. You gotta remember, there was a lot of carrying costs for this damage that was done during the explosion. A lot of them had to find other places to live. A lot of them had to come out of pocket to buy building materials or hire contractors to help build. There were some contractors in the area that did not do a very good job, or some even took off with money from some of these folks. And so money was an issue at the time. I can say that with the first tranche of settlements that you will drive through the neighborhood today and see a lot of the homes starting to be rebuilt with some of those funds, but it's not completely done yet. They're not completely made whole yet. And reminding you that out of 1,000 clients, this is only 5 people that have gotten their cases resolved in a sense that there's a value on these cases, but that doesn't guarantee payment, right? This is, and I said this yesterday, you know, these are numbers on a piece of paper, and they don't mean anything until they're translated into dollars. And 3M and DebtCon could choose to drag this on longer with their lawyers and with appeals, where these folks may have to wait an additional year or 2 or longer as their case goes through the legal system. So we are on the road to getting them made whole. We're on the road to rebuilding this neighborhood. This is certainly a step forward in the right direction, but we still have a ways to go on our journey.
And that's concerning, that this could go because of their work capabilities just being severely limited. I'm sure Mr. Solomon, Mr. Gonzalez, Ms. Esmeralda, what can they do for work now and just hope things come together for them?
It's been a tough 5 years for these folks. Many of them had to live with relatives. Many of them had to borrow from family members. They have slashed their living expenses, as you can imagine. Their homes were already paid off, and some of them were relegated to living in broken homes with leaky roofs. I had clients that were living in their garage or in a neighbor's garage for a period of time with no air conditioning during the hot summer months in Houston. Disaster. Our law firm stepped up and helped over 100 of these folks do battle with their own insurance companies. Can you imagine, like, you get in a huge explosion, you have homeowners insurance, and they say, we're not paying you, that we have questions about what happened here. We show them pictures of the devastation, they refuse to pay, and so these folks have to turn to lawyers. Our law firm then has to file a lawsuit against the insurance companies, and we did all that for free. We took no fees on that.
And then finally, I can imagine the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. Do you imagine this is a warning to other companies to cross those T's, dot those I's, check, 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 check?
Absolutely. Our industry expert, Ken Neitlinger, testified on the stand. He flew in from somewhere far away. Detroit, Michigan. Did a fantastic job. He's actually in the business of training fire departments and training gas detection professionals on how to do this right. And he was fairly critical on the work that 3M did. And he said under oath that the vast majority of these plants, unless you're in an industrial designated location, are in our neighborhoods where we live and sleep and where our children go to school. Like I said, there was a bus stop for kids. You imagine this thing happening an hour or 2 later, this explosion, we would have a bunch of fatalities, and that's just unacceptable. And these gas detection expert, if you're to call yourself an expert, why don't you act like one? If your tagline is gonna be, we are in the business of protecting lives, take it seriously. Get this stuff working. Make it perfect. I mean, these are not complicated machines. They sense gas, they trigger an alarm. It's not complicated. But oftentimes 3M and these other types of companies, they take shortcuts. And this is the kind of devastation that happens when they do.
I think that works for me. Anything else anybody thinks important to add? That I
Anyone,
didn't
guys?
add?
Lawyer likes to talk.
I can do a little bit. So I'll add on that. There are multiple trials moving forward on this case. It's not over. So we have an opportunity at the end of this month to try this case again, which we intend to do. There are over 2,000 people that were impacted by this explosion. And so they all have their cases set and ready for trial, and we intend to try every one of the cases that we have for our firm, which is almost 1,000 clients. And so until responsibility is taken, until this jury, and their message is actually heard on the other side, we intend to move forward with every single one of these clients until they're done.
And I'm guessing the verdict in those cases could be in the millions too, potentially.
Potentially, it depends on which clients go to trial, and
What their injuries are and what they lost. that type of thing.
it will be a case-by-case basis, but we have all the analysis on every single person that was injured in this case, and the companies on the other side do too, and the impacts not only on the home but onto their onto their person. So we have all of the information that needs to be said, and we have a jury that has come back and said at least 20% is on these detection companies, and so where it goes from here remains to be seen.
That's great. Good point. Ronnie?
No, Marcus?
Good.
Thank you for your
Perfect.
time.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
guys.